Hello and welcome to this week's lecture. We'll be focusing on career counseling for multicultural groups. Uh, we would look at career counseling for multicultural group along the lines of culture being complex concepts. We'll also look at it along the lines of cultural differences and work-related activities, and also highlight some of the attributes and perceptions of work um, in the five major cultural groups that we have in the U.S. We'll also look at skills for multicultural counseling, some strategies for dealing with multicultural influences and mental health issues that come on with cultural groups. One thing that you might notice in recent times is that the US is becoming more and more multicultural and diverse. This diversity is not only in terms of race, but also in terms of sexual orientation, in terms of religious beliefs and values, in terms of ableism and disability. And so it's becoming increasingly important for people that work in human services agencies to recognize these differences and to understand the challenges that they present when it comes to providing career counseling services, or when it comes to addressing the personal and work-related challenges that clients present with when they come for services. There is a need for counselors to develop competencies and objectives and strategies that would assist these individuals for various ethnic groups. We cannot use a one-size-fits-it-all when it comes to working with clients from different backgrounds, because their needs are diverse, and using a one-size-fits-all model will not bring the required outcomes for clients from underserved groups or marginalized groups, or from groups that are different. And so what in essence is culture? And there are several definitions of culture out there, but when we talk about culture, we're looking at the beliefs and the value systems and the ways that people identify themselves, the attitudes, the norms, the behaviors that are shared by a group, and to which individuals from that group often ascribe, and from which they operate from. A person's culture is important because the cultures kind of like color the lenses from which they perceive the world. So their worldview is colored by the cultural background that they emerge from. And culture itself is a learned behavior. It is something that we are taught and we are socialized to accept. And so it's important that we know the backgrounds of the different cultural groups that we work with, so we could provide appropriate interventions to these individuals. In the US, each cultural group has a different perspective of work. They also have different perspective when it comes to human nature. Some cultures perceive work as a means to an end. That is, work is emphasized, and so people are socialized to see work as a means through which they would fulfill their needs. in terms of their material needs and in terms of getting recognition, in terms of um, addressing their interaction and social needs. But other groups may perceive work differently, and may see work simply as a part of the society, something that they engage in and not necessarily what defines them. So they may not view work as more important than the relationships that they have. Another thing is how the culture itself is structured. Some cultures are very collectivist. That means that there is a sense of there is a sense in which everybody is would extend themselves to help each other out. They tend to do things together and tend to see themselves more as a whole. So in such cultures, there is a lot of support when it comes to work, but there is not much emphasis on competition, on having a certain drive to move up the occupational ladder or to try to see work as an end to address the person's personal goals, but as something that should benefit everybody. Another thing is with respect to time and the importance of doing things in a timely manner and getting work done and breaking up work such that work is compartmentalized and setting deadlines and getting things done. Some cultures tend to be very laid back and so does not view time as something that's very important or being on time as important. Whereas others feel that those are necessary and that getting work done is very important. Another thing is with respect to personal space and privacy, even in the work setting. Some cultures prefer for people to work together and does not have personal space. Others tend to be more individualistic and so tend to emphasize personal space and privacy. Another interesting concept is related to power distance. Power distance refers to the strength of societal hierarchy. That's the extent to which the lower ranking individuals of the society accept and expect that power is distributed equally. Whereas some cultures feel like decision making should rest only with supervisors, other cultures tend to be collectivist and feel like everybody should be involved and should be involved in the decision making and how work should be structured and how work should be shared within an environment. Power distance in collectivist cultures, power distance in collectivist cultures tend to reject that hierarchy, but in individualistic cultures, there is an acceptance of that hierarchy, and so we have to recognize all of that when we are working with our clients. Next thing is uncertainty avoidance. Uncertainty avoidance deal with society's tolerance for uncertainty and ambiguity. It relates to how the culture within that environment program the members to feel either uncomfortable or comfortable in structured societies, structured situations. Some cultures like a lot of structure. Other cultures like flexibility and allowing the individual to think freely and to work as best as they could. There is also difference in individualism and collectivism, emphasizing individual success and emphasizing individual drive and competition, but others prefer working together. Another thing is respect to masculinity in terms of how people cooperate when they are or how people should behave in a work setting. So in some work settings, being tough is emphasized, and that's a masculine trait. In other work settings, being tender and nurturing is emphasized. Cultures that tend to be masculine tend to be made up more of male gender roles as opposed to having a balance between male and female gender roles. So in those cultures that are masculine, gender roles are not equally distributed. And so we also have to look at those factors when it comes to perceptions of work. In masculine societies, it is emphasized that men could take on more roles and responsibilities and could grow, and women should not be given certain roles because of their gender or because of the responsibilities they may have. And so we see that culture does play an important role in work-related values as well. And so for counselors to be competent, it is important for them to develop appropriate services cross-culturally, and that requires that they understand their own assumptions, values, and biases, and understand the worldview of culturally different clients, and work with them to address their occupational needs as well as the personal needs. It's also incumbent on the counselors to know and to understand appropriate interventions, strategies, and techniques that are the best fit for that client from those different cultural backgrounds. So the major 5 cultural groups that we have within the U.S. are African American, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, and white. Most of the first 4 tend to be very collectivist cultures, but the white culture is more an individualistic culture. Some mental health issues that are common to cultural groups are these. These are typical for to general society, and so I think that they're pretty much easy to understand looking at this. The only thing that I want to say about this is that because minority cultural groups tend to be marginalized and tend to have less access to resources and opportunities, these mental health issues tend to be highlighted more, tend to grow, tend to come about on a much bigger scale compared to whites or the dominant cultural group. Let's think about females and issues of bias when it comes to salaries or gender roles and all of that. Because of the way that the society is structured, their experiences of these mental health issues can be exaggerated compared to others. And so some strategies to dealing with multicultural issues is for us to gain understanding about the particular ethnicity and gender from which the client emerged, and to identify challenges of that particular group and to work with them. Know what the culture emphasizes in terms of individualism and collectivism, and help the client as much as possible to work in a culture